Did you watch any of the football?
Um, yes and no. I watched because I wanted to watch Cheryl Lee Ralph and Babyface perform. And I
Babyface was on
watched,
too. See, look, I didn't even know he was there. I was watching The Last of Us last night, catching up on that and
yeah,
Shrinking and a bunch. Yeah, I just caught up on all my TV last night. It
and
was
I wanted to
beautiful.
watch Rihanna perform.
Oh,
And I'm still football. I told you before I grew up a fan, but Colin Kaepernick, how he's been treated, the whole issue of CTE and concussions and how the players are treated post their retirements. It's a lot of problems there, that
all
that
right.
that and then the lack of black coaches. I mean, the team that won Kansas City, you know, um, listen, the offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, the head coach admitted that this black man really won the game for them. He can't get a job. We still can't get black coaches in the league. And so there's so many problems there with the NFL. So it's hard for me to watch it without a political lens because, it's just real like that. And I mean, did I pay attention to the game? No. I mean, and I'm a person who used to throw Super Bowl parties. I used to have big Super Bowl parties, but that's just not happening anymore because it's just too many problems with this sport and the unwillingness, like football is almost like a metaphor for America. It's like, unwillingness to, you can be here, but we're not really trying to share power with y'all at all. That's really what it's about. That's
Yes.
you
And
know
yet you gave them your algorithms.
yeah, yeah,
So how do
yeah.
we reconcile with that? I was just talking with Sam Reynolds, Unlocking Astrology, before I came on today. We stayed back and chatted, and I said, if there had to be a boycott for our of
Mhm.
anything, bus or otherwise, it wouldn't happen with this generation because we make excuses for why we can't go the whole distance, right? So even in this conversation, for me, maybe I'm extra. I am extra. So let me just admit that to the world. I'm absolutely extra. That said, I feel like I can't halfway. I'm never going to be lukewarm about anything.
Mm,
Right?
mm.
You're going to be on fire or it's going to be complete ice. But I'm like, I cannot tune in. Yep, and I feel like they're playing with us, right? So last year it was Dr. Dre and Mary J. Blige, and all. It's like, come on through, Negroes, because they know we're the one of the biggest viewers too, right? It's
Oh
not
yeah.
just that 70% of the league is black. Black people support disproportionately this NFL and NBA and all sports, right?
Hmm.
Except for soccer. So I was like, if I tune into this, then they got me. If
Yeah.
I tune in just for the commercials, then they got me. They still got me. They still got what they wanted, which is my eyeballs, my
Mm.
clicks, right? So I'm like, well, I could see Shirley Ralph. Somebody gonna post it, and it's not gonna be on. Make sure it wasn't on the NFL's thing. Somebody
Hmm.
else maybe took a picture at home. I'm like, but it's difficult, right? To stand for something when you're literally. But then I think King, 68% of the country, including black people, were not approving of what he was doing until after he got killed.
After you
Malcolm
got killed.
Malcolm didn't have any. I mean, like, really, y'all, we immortalize people after we realize, oh man, they really put it all on the line
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's part of the course, but it's also frustrating because it's like, don't you see? They're just giving you. Someone said it's the blackest Super Bowl ever.
I read that. That was in
Yes,
USA Today, actually. I
yes,
read that. Yeah.
they're doing that because they understand we're not gonna give you power, but here, Negroes, here's some chitlins. Y'all
And
good
it,
with that?
and
Make it
and,
taste
and
good.
and the sad thing about it, it reminds me of something that years ago, Karen, I interviewed Melvin Van Peebles, and I asked him a simple question. I said, "You were arguably the father of the black film movement, which some people call the black exploitation era of the 1970s, Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song, and he was there in the thick of everything. He was a producer on Watt Stacks, that great documentary. He was winning Tony Awards with Broadway shows. He was in the middle of it. I said, why did that whole scene end? He said, basically, a couple of things. One, they in quotes, were just trying to appease black people because remember we were coming out of the civil rights movement in the black power era. And so, okay, let's get some black movies, let's get some black TV shows, etc. But he said one of the things that black folks didn't realize, most of us didn't have the skill sets. And so when the plug was pulled, we couldn't continue on making anything because we hadn't bothered to develop any kind of plan of action that was separate of, here's we're going to just put this out there to make you feel good for a little bit, for a little while. And that's been the carrot on the stick for a long time. The same thing happened in the Harlem Renaissance because people forget Zora Hurston and Langston Hughes were struggling by the time they got to the 30s. These are the
That's
two most
right.
famous writers of the Harlem Renaissance, but it was not easy. Langston literally had to be driven around in a car to sell books out of the trunk of his car, just like we did in hip hop many years later. And we all know, if you just watch the documentary that's on PBS right now, Zora Neale Hurston, one of our greatest writers ever, great anthropologist, pioneer anthropologist, among many other things, ended up dying in an unmarked grave, and it's just, and so we have to think about, what does this look like for us? Are we just happy to be at the table, or do you actually want to own the table? It's a big difference there. You know what I
Well,
mean? And you and I have been in this game a long time, so we know what it's like to get into stuff for free. You and I could have gone to the Super Bowl for free yesterday. We know people. It ain't hard to do. We could have been, we could have had the VIP badges. Man, what do I need a VIP badge for now if I don't actually own the space that I'm in? You know what I mean? And I think that's what we got to think about. And I think that we've had a lot of carrots on the stick with what's been happening, and people getting caught up in, oh, so-and-so's here, so-and-so's there. But at the end of the day, what do we actually own? Because it's like the real power move would have been to say, okay, the way y'all treated Colin Kaepernick, and other brothers, Jerry Jones, how he threatened the Dallas Cowboy players, literally, if y'all protest, this is what's going to happen. Is to say, well, 70% of us are Black and we're shutting this down. 80% of the NBA is Black, we're shutting this down. But that's the real power move. But it's like, that takes courage. That takes Muhammad Ali type courage. That takes Bill Russell type courage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not made like that. And sacrifice, not just courage, but sacrifice, right?
Sacrifice. Yeah.
So, and the sacrifice is not what Bill Russell and Muhammad Ali sacrificed, which is their whole careers. Sacrifice is, I'm not going to tune in.
Yeah.
That you don't even, like, I didn't miss it last night. And again, my Super Bowl parties probably were better than yours. No, I'm just kidding. I doubt it. I doubt it. We're competitive. We're competitive. But yeah, no, me too. The biggest screen TV, all of the, I even made, some curry chicken and lasagna, which is my specialty, and then we just have people over. I was, bartender in a few previous life, so my drinks were tight, but no more, because either you stand for something or you fall for anything. We've been falling for anything. Our lips should be tired of being busted from falling. Like, I'm just enough already. And at the end of the day, they are playing us. Like, I'm like, So let me ask you, 866-801-8255. I'm really struggling with the Black National Anthem being played. I'm really struggling with this. And I've had these conversations, and my life has been changed dramatically, talking every single Saturday with Dr. Gray Carr. But I'm gonna play a clip from him. I'm gonna play a clip from him where he explains the difference between the stars. No, let me do the first clip first. Clip number 2. This is from episode 46 in Class with Carr. We were talking about James Weldon Johnson and Lift Every Voice and Sing. Play it, Steph.
Along This Way, the autobiography of James Weldon Johnson. This brother, this is what James Weldon Johnson said when they said, well, the Star Spangled Banner is an anthem, and Lift Your Voice and Sing is an anthem. He said, no. James Weldon Johnson, the author of the so-called Black National Anthem, said, when you hear the Star Spangled Banner with all that killing and all that, blood, he said, it sounds like a drinking song. Now, remember, James Weldon Johnson was a poet. You understand? It's badly written. It's like a drinking song. Lift Every Voice and Sing, it's much more noble. That's a hymn. So when Jim Clyburn says that, let's make this the national hymn. You know what? This is how I might approach it if I were talking to him. I said, I tell you what, Congressman Clyburn, I will support that 100% when you let all of us know 2 things. Number 1, the difference between a hymn and an anthem. And I know you know it because you didn't say national anthem, you said national hymn. Number 1, difference between a hymn and an anthem. And number 2, whether or not we pray to the same God in the United States of America.
Okay. So bringing a hymn that was born out of understanding those second and third verses of the Star Spangled Banner that talked about the destruction, the annihilation of the enslaved, right? And serfs. And these brothers, James Weldon Johnson and his brother, crafting a hymn to empower Black people around, it's literally a prayer Do you believe, Kevin Powell, that this song, which is sacred to us, and I feel the same way about Juneteenth, sacred to us, our experience born out of our trauma, our pain, should have been rammed into a celebration of gladiator games, CTEs, racism? Should it have been sung at the Super Bowl last night?
No. And it's interesting. Here's my theory now. I'm just going to put it out there for your audience. This is the first time I'm saying it aloud. I've been saying it to myself the last couple of days. We need to acknowledge that there's something now called in America, George Floyd hires. Black folks who've been hired left and right, even if they weren't qualified for certain positions, usually diversity leadership positions. There's been the whole phenomenon of George Floyd maneuvers, which is what the Black National Anthem was yesterday at the Super Bowl. And again, is to appease Black folks, to make it look like, okay, we've learned our lesson from what happened to this Black man and Breonna Taylor and everybody else before that. Even as Tyree Nichol and other people are still getting killed. But this is to let us make you feel like you're part of the conversation, a part of the power sharing, which is really what it's about at this point. Not are we at the table, are we sharing control of this table? And that's still the resistance. And so, it's interesting. I mean, I'm happy to see Shirley Ralph individually get all these opportunities because she's been around for 40 plus years and she's a dynamic talent. And I'm happy to see her get all the accolades. God bless her. I think that's a beautiful thing. But I do think that when you roll out, okay, here's Shirley Ralph, and here's Babyface doing America the Beautiful. And then you got Rihanna, and I was happy for her, and Rihanna has consciously, we know supported a lot of Black things, what I'm saying? Yes. And yes. A lot of folks on the stage with her yesterday at the Super Bowl were Black people. Most of those dancers were Black people she was hiring. She's very clear about what her vision is for this thing. But I think that, I don't know, man, it's not an either or for me, but it always comes back to power. It comes back to power because at the end of the day, when I think about the Super Bowl now, I think about the money that's generated. I think about the fact that, not a single owner is Black over this league that is 70% Black bodies. And barely 1% of the coaches are Black men, and I want to put a pin in this for a second, y'all. The Philadelphia Eagles, their coach is a young cat, Nick Sirianni. He's a good coach. He's a young white brother. He's in his early 40s. Go look up his Wikipedia page. He literally made his way from lower levels up and got an opportunity. Then what did he do when he became the coach of the Eagles? He hired a whole bunch of young white males to be coordinators with him. And so there's a kind of a self-contained white male privilege thing that happens in the coaching ranks and the ownership ranks of the NFL, where it makes it almost impossible for someone who's not white male to get into these positions. And so that's why we're in the position that we're in. And, even with Damar Hamlin, as much I feel for what happened to him. I actually hope he doesn't go back to playing football ever again. I think he has a greater purpose, a higher calling, which is to be a leader. I think he has an incredible voice, an incredible story, but they'll take that and make that into something that everyone could rally around. But at the end of the day, I mean, the real issue is like, well, is Damar Hamlin ever going to be able to be an owner of a team in this league? Will he ever be a head coach of this league? Or is he just going to be a symbol that we rally around, to make us feel good for the moment? Buffalo strong, we love Damar Hamlin, but do you love Damar Hamlin if he starts speaking out the way Colin Kaepernick spoke out? Then will your love end for him? And that's the kind of stuff we need to be thinking about critically.
Why don't we? 866-801-8255. There are people right now squirming, oh, Karen, you're going too far. It's just football. It's just a game. Is it? Is it just a game?
No.
Is it just a game?
No.
And like really ask yourself, why are they playing these games with us? And we are absolutely coming to the table with our chips as if it's a fair play. It's not a fair board. It's not a fair board. They created the rules. They change them at will. They give you the piece that they want you to have, and you play the game.
Yeah.
Why are we playing the game? It's so frustrating. So yes, and Juneteenth shouldn't be a federal holiday. It should not, in my opinion. It is ours. And if it's going to be a federal holiday, every white person in a country should be working. But this is divisive, right? And this is the first time I think I might agree with all of the fragile tears of these folk that love Trump. They were so upset about this national anthem, Black national anthem, and they couldn't understand it. And people commenting on it, not even understanding the history of the original Star Spangled Banner, of why James Weldon Johnson and his brother even made this, what it's all about. It's a lovely song, but I just think it's so divisive that we have two anthems. And they were like, when does that happen? I said, Canada, there are NBA teams in Canada. When the NBA plays Toronto, they play the Toronto national anthem, and they play the United States national anthem. And this country's divided. It's always been two countries. The Kerner Report told us in the 60s, America's two countries, one black, one white. When has it ever been united? When has it ever come together? We need either new constitution, or we need to admit that this is a divided nation and stop with the bull crap of e pluribus unum, because it's not out of many one. This is something else going on here. And if you want to dispute it, please come with facts. 866-801-8255, because to me, it was both poignant and disturbing to have a national anthem, a black national hymn sung at the NFL's premier game, the Super Bowl, as well as a national anthem that defiled people who were formerly enslaved with his third verse. I'm like, it couldn't be more poignant and more fitting for the state of this union.
Look up